do wants me to go to the no-tell motel with him. Says he'll take me off to Nashville, see the Grand Ole Opry, the works. I reckon I've never wanted to see anything that bad. Not even Dolly Parton.
What if I told you that General Lee was actually illegal to drive? What if the Duke boys secretly despised each other behind the scenes? The Dukes of Hazzard weren't just good old boys, never meaning no harm. This was a production nightmare, concealing secrets that could have obliterated the entire show. Buckle up, because what you're about to discover will completely shatter everything you thought you knew about Hazzard County. Secret 1. The Automotive Massacre that shocked Hollywood. Here's a question that'll blow your mind. How many classic American muscle cars would you sacrifice for entertainment? The Dukes of Hazzard destroyed between 309 and 321 Dodge Chargers during its 7-season run, making it the most destructive television production in history. Let that sink in for a moment. Over 300 irreplaceable pieces of automotive history, gone forever. Warner Brothers literally purchased every available 1969 Charger they could find across America, paying between $500 and $3,000 per car depending on condition. They scoured junkyards, placed newspaper ads, and sent scouts to remote towns hunting for these vehicles like automotive bounty hunters. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. By season 3, the supply of genuine 1969 Chargers had been completely exhausted. Completely. The production team started buying 1968 and 1970 models, then painstakingly modifying them to look like 69s. They changed grills, taillights, and body panels to maintain continuity. Can you imagine the desperation? Stunt coordinator Gary Baxley revealed in a 2006 interview something that should horrify any car enthusiast. They were destroying cars faster than they could acquire them. Production actually halted filming multiple times while scouts searched junkyards nationwide. The show that America loved was creating an automotive extinction event. Here's the detail that makes this truly heartbreaking. Each jump destroyed the car's frame beyond repair. Even those spectacular landings that looked clean on camera. The vehicle was never drivable again. The chassis would twist, suspension would collapse, and frame rails would crack. Every single General Lee jump was effectively a disposable stunt, using a disposable car. Think about that next time you see that iconic orange Charger soaring through the air. You're not watching a stunt, you're watching automotive destruction masquerading as entertainment. Secret 2. The actors paid less than their co-star. The car. Here's a salary scandal that'll make your blood boil. What if your employer valued a vehicle more than you? During Season 1, John Schneider and Tom Wopat each earned $5,000 per episode. Sounds decent, right? Wrong. General Lee's maintenance, preparation, and replacement costs averaged $7,000 per episode. Warner Brothers literally valued the car more than the human actors bringing the show to life. But the financial exploitation got exponentially worse. By Season 3, the show was generating $30 million annually in advertising revenue. $30 million. Yet Schneider and Wopat were still making their original $5,000 per episode salary with absolutely no raises. None. Zero. While Warner Brothers executives were getting rich, the show's stars were getting exploited. Here's where the rebellion started brewing. The actors discovered that Catherine Bach, who played Daisy Duke, had negotiated a deal earning $22,000 per episode plus royalties on Daisy Duke merchandise. The men had no merchandise deals whatsoever, despite General Lee toys bearing their likenesses and generating millions in revenue. Can you imagine discovering you're worth less than a car? That your face is on lunchboxes and toy packages, making a corporation wealthy while you're earning a fraction of what you deserve? In 1982, both actors walked off set demanding contract renegotiations. This wasn't greed, this was dignity. Warner Brothers initially refused, instead hiring replacements, Coy and Vance Duke, played by Byron Cherry and Christopher Mayer. The replacement season was a catastrophic ratings disaster, dropping 40% in viewership. Audiences weren't stupid. They knew these weren't their Duke boys. Warner Brothers finally capitulated, agreeing to pay Schneider and Wopot $20,000 per episode plus merchandise royalties. The strike cost both actors approximately $300,000 each in lost salary during negotiations. But they considered it worth fighting exploitation. Sometimes principle costs more than compliance, but it's priceless. Secret 3. Banned in 38 countries for one controversial symbol. What if General Lee's most iconic feature made it illegal in most of the world? By 1983, 38 countries had banned the Dukes of Hazzard from broadcast, specifically because of the Confederate flag painted on General Lee's roof. 38 countries looked at that symbol and said, absolutely not. Germany's Broadcasting Commission declared the symbol violated their anti-Nazi imagery laws, creating legal equivalence between Confederate and Nazi symbolism. The United Kingdom's Television Standards Board received over 5,000 complaints after just 2 episodes aired. 2 episodes. 5,000 complaints. Here's where the controversy escalated internationally. Warner Brothers attempted to create edited versions with the flag digitally removed or replaced, but the technology didn't exist in the early 80s to seamlessly erase it from every shot. This wasn't a simple graphics swap. The flag appeared in hundreds of shots per episode, from every conceivable angle. They tried physically painting over the flag on certain hero cars used for close-ups, but this created continuity errors where the roof changed appearance between wide shots and close-ups. Editors would be splicing together footage of cars with flags and cars without flags in the same chase sequence. It was a continuity nightmare. Some countries allowed broadcast only if a disclaimer aired before each episode explaining the historical context, essentially requiring Warner Brothers to apologize for their own show before it even started. But most countries simply banned it outright, refusing any compromise. Here's the really insane part. The international bans cost Warner Brothers an estimated $150 million in lost licensing revenue over the show's run. $150 million vanished because of a design choice made without considering international sensibilities. Producer Guy Waldron later admitted he never anticipated the flag would become controversial, calling it a simple aesthetic choice that destroyed international marketability. But was it really that innocent? Or was it a calculated decision that prioritized authenticity over accessibility? The controversy that killed foreign sales in the 80s returned even harder decades later when streaming services began removing episodes, proving some secrets never stay buried. They just get excavated by new generations. Secret 4. Daisy shorts were measured with rulers before every scene. Here's the wardrobe battle that nearly got the show canceled. What if I told you that network censors measured Catherine Bach's shorts with rulers before every single filming? CBS censors implemented a specific rule for Catherine Bach's costume. Her denim shorts could be no shorter than 3 inches above the knee, and they measured with actual rulers before every filming. 3 inches. Not 2.5, not 3 1/4. Exactly 3 inches. Measured like she was a piece of furniture being quality controlled. Bach fought this restriction constantly, arguing the measurement made no sense because her legs were longer than average, making 3 inches look different on her than on shorter women. It was arbitrary body policing disguised as standards enforcement. Here's how she won the war. Bach discovered a loophole. The censors only measured the shorts before filming, not during. Between takes, she would roll the waistband to make them shorter, then unroll them when censors were present. She was literally outsmarting network executives through wardrobe manipulation. The wardrobe department became her accomplices, creating shorts with elastic waistbands that could be quickly adjusted. It was a conspiracy of costume designers rebelling against corporate control through elastic engineering. But here's the really shocking detail. CBS received over 12,000 complaint letters during Season 1 from religious groups demanding Bach be forced to wear longer shorts. 12,000 people took time to write letters about a woman's clothing. The network actually considered replacing her with an actress willing to dress more conservatively. Can you imagine being told you might lose your job because your shorts were deemed too threatening to public morality? Producer Guy Waldron threatened to quit if they touched Daisy's costume, arguing it was essential to the show's appeal. This was a rare moment of a male producer defending a woman's right to dress as she chose, even when facing network pressure. The compromise? Censors allowed the short shorts, but banned certain camera angles and movements they deemed exploitative. This meant no low-angle shots and no slow-motion running scenes featuring Daisy. The costume stayed, but the cinematography was regulated. Here's what this really reveals. The censorship was never about the clothing. It was about controlling how women's bodies were presented and perceived. Daisy Duke's shorts became a battleground for autonomy, and Catherine Bach fought that battle every single day on set. Secret 5. Boss Hogg's suits cost more than most actors' weekly salaries. Want to know where the budget really went? Not to the people, to the wardrobe.
Now old Roscoe is up for re-election. That means the one man he's got to see is Boss Hogg.
Boss Hogg's iconic white suit was custom-made by Hollywood costumer Western Costume Company at a cost of $2,300 per suit. Sorrel Book, who played Boss Hogg, went through approximately 42 suits per season due to outdoor filming conditions and action sequences. That's over $96,000 annually just for one character's costume. Meanwhile, stunt performers, people literally risking their lives, were earning $1,500 per episode. Let that disparity sink in. The costume budget for one character exceeded what stunt performers risked their necks for. Here's the detail that makes this insane. The suits weren't just expensive because of quality. They were specially treated with a chemical weatherproofing process that cost $800 per suit, because Boss Hogg filmed outdoor scenes in Georgia humidity. Without the treatment, the fabric would yellow from sweat within hours. They were spending $800 per suit on chemical treatments to prevent sweat stains. The white hat that completed the costume cost another $700, and Book went through roughly 20 hats per season. We're talking about $14,000 in hats alone, for one character. But here's the truly wasteful part. Warner Brothers demanded pristine white costumes in every scene, meaning Book changed suits 3 to 5 times per filming day if any dirt or grass stains appeared. The costume department kept 6 identical suits on set at all times, like a fashion emergency response team. The total investment in Boss Hogg's wardrobe exceeded $400,000 over 7 seasons, more than some cast members' total earnings for the entire series. Think about that. A costume budget exceeding human compensation. This reveals something crucial about Hollywood priorities. Appearances matter more than people. Perfection matters more than performers. The image of wealth was worth more than actual wealth distribution. Secret 6. James Best played his own stunt double at age 53. Here's a secret that proves James Best was the show's most undervalued performer. He not only played Sheriff Roscoe P. Coltrane, he also performed virtually all his own stunts. Despite being 53 years old, when the show premiered, the production couldn't find a stunt double who matched Best's unique physical comedy style, so he did pratfalls, car crashes, and fight scenes himself. At 53. While younger actors used stunt doubles, Best was out there taking genuine physical punishment. But here's where it gets more impressive. Best was also an accomplished stunt driver who had worked in westerns for 30 years. He drove the police car in many pursuit scenes that fans assumed used stunt drivers. Those high-speed chases? Often the actual actor, not a stunt professional. Here's the detail nobody knows. Best injured himself seriously 11 times during the show's run, including 2 broken ribs, a fractured wrist, and a severe concussion. He hid most injuries from producers because he feared being replaced with a younger actor who required less insurance coverage. The concussion happened during season 4 when a planned car crash went wrong, and Best hit his head on the door frame. He finished filming the episode despite bleeding internally, then spent 3 days hospitalized. Warner Brothers never knew. He literally risked permanent brain injury rather than admit vulnerability. Best's wife later revealed he was in constant pain during seasons 5 through 7 from accumulated injuries, but refused to stop doing stunts because the physical comedy defined his character. He sacrificed his body for comedic perfection. Here's what this reveals about the entertainment industry. Dedication is often indistinguishable from exploitation. Best wasn't given proper stunt support. Instead, his professionalism became the justification for inadequate safety protocols. His excellence excused their negligence. Secret 7. The show's creator based it on his family's criminal past. What if the Dukes of Hazzard wasn't wholesome entertainment, but actual crimes reimagined? Creator Guy Waldron revealed in a 1998 interview that he based the show on his family's illegal moonshine operation in Kentucky during the 1950s. Waldron's uncles ran moonshine across state lines using souped-up cars to outrun police, exactly like the Duke boys. This wasn't creative imagination. This was family history. Here's the shocking detail. Waldron witnessed at least 3 high-speed chases as a child when he accompanied his uncles on delivery runs. The famous General Lee jump stunts were based on a real incident where his uncle jumped a creek bed to escape pursuing officers. Those impossible stunts? Actual criminal escape tactics. But here's where reality was darker than television. Waldron's Uncle Grady was shot and killed by police during a chase in 1957 when Waldron was 14 years old. That tragedy haunted him and inspired the probation premise where the Duke boys couldn't carry guns. Waldron wanted to show outlaws who weren't violent, unlike his uncle who had fired back at police. The Duke boys' refusal to use firearms wasn't just a creative choice. It was a memorial to a dead uncle who chose violence and paid the ultimate price. The character of Uncle Jesse was directly based on Waldron's grandfather, who ran the illegal still and treated moonshining as a family tradition rather than serious crime. Every piece of folksy wisdom from Uncle Jesse was filtered through actual criminal family history. Warner Brothers knew nothing about this background when they greenlit the show. They thought Waldron had created a wholesome Southern fantasy. He'd actually dramatized organized crime, sanitized it for television, and sold it as family entertainment. Here's the question this raises. Were we watching a celebration of Southern culture or a romanticization of criminal activity? And does it matter if we enjoyed it? Either way. Secret 8. Waylon Jennings recorded narration while intoxicated. Here's the recording secret that explains the narration's unique laid-back quality. Waylon Jennings recorded virtually all his narration voiceovers while drinking whiskey in the studio, often completing sessions in the early morning hours after finishing concert performances. Producer Paul Picard revealed in a 2005 interview that Jennings refused to record sober, claiming it made his voice sound too tight and professional for the good old boy character he was portraying. Think about that. Professional sobriety was considered a creative liability. Here's the really wild detail. Jennings would show up to recording sessions at 2 or 3 a.m., still wearing stage clothes from concerts, sometimes with his band, and treat the voiceover work as a casual jam session. Engineers learned to have whiskey and cigarettes ready because Jennings wouldn't start until he felt loose enough. Many of the narration's most memorable ad-libs happened because Jennings was too intoxicated to read the script properly, and just improvised. Lines like, "Y'all come back now, you hear?" weren't written. Jennings made them up on the spot while drunk. Here's the part that shocked producers. Some sessions required 15 or 20 takes because Jennings would start laughing mid-narration and couldn't stop. But when he finally nailed a take, it had authentic Southern charm that sober professional voice actors couldn't replicate. Warner Brothers eventually stopped fighting his methods and just accepted that quality narration required drunk Waylon. They literally scheduled intoxication into the production timeline. This raises an uncomfortable question. How much of what we consider authentic artistic voice is actually just unfiltered intoxication? And should we celebrate that or be concerned about it? Secret 9. The police cars were actually rebuilt school buses. What if Hazzard County's police fleet was built from retired school buses? The production couldn't afford to destroy real police vehicles for crash scenes, so stunt coordinator Hal Needham developed an ingenious solution. Purchase retired school buses, cut them down to car size, and rebuild them to look like Plymouth Furies. Here's the insane engineering. Needham's crew would buy old school buses for $300 to $500, then completely disassemble them. They kept the heavy-duty frame and suspension, removed the bus body, and fabricated new bodies from fiberglass and sheet metal shaped like police cars. The result was a vehicle that could withstand massive crashes because it had school bus structural integrity underneath a cop car exterior. It was automotive deception. Frankenstein engineering creating illusion through destruction-resistant design. But here's the detail that made this brilliant. School bus frames are designed to protect children in accidents, making them nearly indestructible compared to standard car frames. The production could crash these vehicles repeatedly, simply replacing the cosmetic body panels between takes. Here's the cost breakdown that proves the genius. A real Plymouth Fury cost approximately $4,000. Building a bus-based replica cost $1,200 and could survive 5 to 7 crashes before retirement. Real police cars were destroyed in single crashes. Needham's innovation saved Warner Brothers an estimated $2 million over the show's run. Eagle-eyed viewers sometimes noticed the police cars sat slightly higher than normal vehicles because of the bus suspension. What you thought were regular cop cars were actually armored buses in disguise. This reveals something fascinating about television production. Authenticity is optional when destruction is mandatory. Nobody cared that the police cars weren't real. They cared that they crashed spectacularly. Secret 10. Catherine Bach designed Daisy Duke's entire look herself. Here's the creative control secret that networks would never allow today. Catherine Bach rejected the network's costume.
Well, there was this magazine ad where you paid $50 and they publish your song. So I saved up all my tip money till I had enough.
And designed Daisy Duke's entire iconic look herself. When Catherine Bach was cast, the wardrobe department presented her with a conservative outfit, a pink midi skirt and white blouse. Bach took one look and told them, absolutely not. She went home, created her own costume using her personal clothes, and showed up to the first table read, wearing denim shorts, a tied crop top, and cowboy boots. Here's what made producers instantly agree. Bach explained that a genuine Southern girl working on a farm wouldn't wear impractical clothes. The shorts were functional workwear, not appeal. The tied shirt kept her cool in Georgia heat. The boots were necessary for actual farm work. Her argument was so logical that producer Guy Waldron approved her self-designed costume immediately, overruling the wardrobe department. But here's the detail that changed television costume history. Bach personally cut and frayed the original shorts used in the pilot. They were her actual personal Levi's that she'd owned for 3 years. When Daisy Dukes became a cultural phenomenon, Levi's offered Bach a licensing deal to create official Daisy Duke shorts. She refused. Let me repeat that. She turned down a licensing deal that could have made her millions, saying the appeal was authenticity, not commercialization. Warner Brothers later estimated that decision cost Bach approximately $15 million in licensing revenue. But Bach maintained that keeping creative control was more valuable than money. Her instinct about authentic Southern styling defined an iconic television character, and she owned that creation completely, even at massive financial cost. This reveals something revolutionary. Sometimes the most valuable thing you own is control over your own image, even when corporations offer millions to take it from you. Secret 11. General Lee's horn was illegal in 7 states. What if General Lee's most recognizable feature was actually illegal? The car's distinctive horn that played Dixie violated noise ordinance laws in 7 states, including California, New York, and Michigan. The horn exceeded 85 decibels, the legal limit for vehicle warning devices, measuring between 105 and 112 decibels, depending on which General Lee was being measured. Here's the legal nightmare this created. When Warner Brothers transported General Lee cars across state lines for promotional appearances, they were technically violating federal transportation laws regarding non-compliant vehicle equipment. State police in Michigan actually impounded one General Lee in 1981 during a mall appearance because the horn violated local ordinances. The production had to pay a $1,500 fine and remove the horn before the car was released. They literally had to disable the most iconic feature of the most iconic car in television history to comply with municipal noise ordinances. But here's the engineering detail that made it worse. The horn wasn't a standard musical horn modified to play Dixie. It was a custom train horn that stunt coordinator Hal Needham had adapted from actual locomotive equipment. Train horns are designed to be heard over long distances and through industrial noise, making them dangerously loud for automotive use. The production kept spare horn systems because they frequently blew out from overuse during filming. Police in Georgia regularly stopped the film crew during location shooting, citing noise complaints from residents who could hear the horn from over 2 miles away. 2 miles! Imagine living 2 miles from a filming location and being orally assaulted by Dixie all day. No wonder they got complaints. This raises an interesting question. At what point does iconic become obnoxious? And who decides where that line exists? Secret 12. Denver Pyle refused to learn lines and improvised everything. Here's the acting rebellion that drove writers insane. Denver Pyle, who played Uncle Jesse.
And how many times have you said to me, "We will, Uncle Jess," and what do? You get her thrown in jail.
Rarely memorized his scripted dialogue and instead improvised based on general scene direction. Writers would craft specific Uncle Jesse wisdom speeches, and Pyle would deliver completely different monologues that conveyed similar meaning but used none of the actual written words. Imagine spending hours crafting perfect dialogue, only to have the actor completely ignore it and make up his own version. Here's why this created production chaos. Other actors had memorized their lines, expecting specific cues from Pyle's dialogue. When he improvised entirely different sentences, they had to improvise responses on the spot. This meant scenes required multiple takes, and editors had to piece together coherent conversations from fragments where actors were actually responding to different dialogue versions. But here's the detail that explains why producers allowed it. Pyle's improvised dialogue consistently tested better with audiences than the scripted versions. His authentic Southern phrasing and natural speech patterns felt more genuine than what writers created. Test screenings showed viewers rated Uncle Jesse as the show's most believable character specifically because Pyle's improvisation made him feel real. Audiences can detect authenticity, and authenticity can't be scripted. Here's the compromise that emerged. Writers stopped giving Pyle specific dialogue and instead provided bullet points of what Uncle Jesse needed to communicate. Pyle would then create his own version on set. This informal arrangement meant Uncle Jesse was genuinely improvised in approximately 85% of his scenes throughout the entire series' run. This reveals something profound about performance. Sometimes the best acting is barely acting at all. Sometimes it's just being yourself, with a slight southern accent and overalls. Secret 13. The stunt budget exceeded writing budget by 400%. Here's the economics that reveal Warner Brothers' priorities. The Dukes of Hazzard spent an average of $96,000 per episode on stunts, while allocating only $24,000 for the entire writing staff. The production valued car crashes over storytelling by a ratio of 4 to 1. 4 to 1. For every dollar invested in narrative, they invested 4 in automotive destruction. Here's the breakdown that proves this. Each episode featured between 8 and 14 stunt sequences. Major stunts cost $5,000 to $8,000 each, when factoring in vehicle destruction, stunt performer salaries, safety equipment, and insurance. The General Lee's signature jump alone cost approximately $7,000 per episode. Meanwhile, the writing staff consisted of 3 writers earning $8,000 each per episode. The head writer earned an additional $8,000 for supervision. That's $24,000 total for all writing costs. But here's where priorities became truly warped. Warner Brothers maintained a full-time stunt crew of 18 people on salary year-round, costing approximately $43,000 monthly, even when not filming. The writing staff was hired per episode only, treated as disposable contractors rather than essential creatives. When writers demanded raises in Season 4, Warner Brothers refused, claiming budget constraints. The writers discovered stunt coordinator budgets had just increased by 20%. The Writers Guild filed a grievance arguing the budget allocation violated fair labor practices. Warner Brothers responded that audiences watched for action, not dialogue. They essentially admitted they valued explosions over storytelling, spectacle over substance. The dispute ended when several writers quit and were replaced with cheaper alternatives. The show's stunt-to-writing budget ratio remains one of television's most extreme examples of action over narrative prioritization. This reveals Hollywood's dirty secret. Audiences say they want great stories, but studios bet millions on the assumption we actually just want things that go boom. Secret 14. Tom Wopat was arrested on set and production continued filming. Here's the scandal that was buried until decades later. In August 1983, Tom Wopat was arrested on the Warner Brothers set for disorderly conduct after an altercation with a production assistant. The incident began when Wopat arrived at work intoxicated and became verbally aggressive when asked to wait for makeup. Security was called. Wopat refused to leave, and Burbank police arrested him on set, in front of cast and crew. Here's the cover-up that followed. Warner Brothers paid bail within 3 hours and had Wopat back on set filming by evening, the same day. The studio issued press releases claiming the arrest was a misunderstanding regarding parking enforcement. They paid the production assistant $25,000 to sign a non-disclosure agreement, $25,000 to buy silence about workplace violence. No charges were filed because Warner Brothers' legal team negotiated with the district attorney's office, arguing prosecution would cost jobs if production shut down. But here's the detail that shows the studio's real priorities. Wopat was ordered to undergo mandatory substance abuse counseling, but Warner Brothers scheduled it only on non-filming days to avoid production delays. When Wopat's counselor recommended 30 days inpatient treatment, the studio refused to release him from his contract obligations. Instead, they hired a private counselor to be on set during filming, essentially turning addiction treatment into a production expense rather than genuine intervention. They monetized recovery to maintain filming schedules. John Schneider later revealed in his autobiography that multiple cast members struggled with substance issues during the show's run, but Warner Brothers prioritized filming schedules over health interventions. This reveals something dark about entertainment. People are expendable as long as production continues. Recovery can wait. Health can wait. Only the schedule matters. Secret 15. The iconic opening, credits, jump failed 17 times. The General Lee jump in the opening credits required 17 attempts over 3 days before achieving the perfect shot. The jump involved launching the car at 62 miles per hour, clearing approximately 80 feet horizontally and 16 feet vertically. The first 6 attempts ended with completely destroyed cars. After 16 failures, the production had spent over $48,000 with no usable footage. Needham modified the ramp angle by 3 degrees, adjusted weight distribution, and used a more experienced driver. Attempt 17 was perfect, becoming television's most iconic automotive stunt. Secret 16. Sorrel Book was an Ivy League graduate who hated playing dumb. Sorrel Book held degrees from Yale and Columbia, spoke 5 languages, and had performed Shakespeare on Broadway. He initially turned down Boss Hogg because he found it intellectually insulting. Warner Brothers offered him $22,000 per episode, more than double what prestigious theater paid annually. Book accepted but refused to watch episodes and avoided discussing it in interviews. Cast members described him as intellectually isolated on set, reading classical literature between takes. Book died in 1994, and his obituaries focused primarily on Boss Hogg rather than his prestigious achievements. The character he despised became his legacy. Secret 17. The show was nearly canceled after the Coy and Vance disaster. When Schneider and Wopat walked out in 1982, Warner Brothers replaced Bo and Luke with cousins Coy and Vance Duke. Ratings immediately dropped 41%. Within 6 episodes, viewership collapsed from 23 million to 13 million. Warner Brothers lost an estimated $37 million in advertising revenue. CBS gave Warner Brothers an ultimatum: bring back the original Duke boys or face cancellation. To return, Warner Brothers paid approximately $3 million in combined signing bonuses, increased salaries to $20,000 each, and granted 5% profit participation. The Coy and Vance experiment cost over $40 million in combined losses. Secret 18. Catherine Bach's legs were insured for $1 million. In 1980, Warner Brothers took out a $1 million insurance policy on Bach's legs through Lloyd's of London. The policy prohibited her from skiing, horseback riding, motorcycle riding, and numerous other activities. Bach had to submit to quarterly medical examinations documenting any changes to her leg structure and skin condition. When Bach became pregnant in 1984, the insurance company argued it would void the policy. Warner Brothers negotiated a pregnancy addendum costing an additional $120,000. Bach couldn't even choose her own exercise routine. The policy specified exactly which exercises were permitted. Secret 19. The final episode was written and filmed in 3 days. CBS canceled The Dukes of Hazzard in February 1985 with only 3 weeks' notice. Warner Brothers gave the writing staff 72 hours to create a series finale script. Denver Pyle was performing in Colorado, and James Best was vacationing in Hawaii. Both had to return immediately. The production filmed for 3 consecutive days straight with 18-hour shifts. No rehearsals, no table read. The finale feels rushed because it was. Plot threads were abandoned and characters disappeared without explanation. Yet somehow they created a finale that gave the Dukes a proper goodbye despite impossible circumstances. Secret 20. General Lee was auctioned for $3 million, but the sale was fraudulent. In 2010, a General Lee used in Season 1 sold at auction for $3 million, setting a record for television memorabilia. But investigators discovered the entire auction was fraudulent. The Dubai collector didn't exist. Professional memorabilia auctions staged the sale using a fake bidder to inflate General Lee values. After the fake $3 million sale generated publicity, they sold 17 replicas falsely claimed as screen-used vehicles to collectors for between $200,000 and $700,000 each. The FBI charged the company with wire fraud in 2014. The company paid $4.2 million in restitution, but the lasting impact remains. Nobody knows the real value of screen-used General Lees anymore because the market was permanently corrupted. Conclusion: the legacy behind the lies. So there you have it, 20 secrets that reveal the Dukes of Hazzard wasn't the wholesome Southern adventure we all remember. Behind every iconic jump was a destroyed piece of automotive history. Behind every memorable scene was an exploited actor fighting for dignity. Behind every nostalgic memory was a secret kept for decades. Did you know about any of these shocking revelations? Which secret surprised you the most? The 300-plus destroyed Chargers? The actors paid less than the car? Or the fraudulent $3 million auction? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Here's what this really tells us about the entertainment we consume. The price of perfection isn't just measured in dollars, but in destroyed cars, compromised principles, and sacrificed dignity. The magic we saw on screen came at a cost nobody discussed. Until now. The Duke boys may have been good old boys, never meaning no harm, but the production that created them? That's a different story entirely. A story of exploitation, corporate greed, creative compromises, and secrets buried for over 4 decades. If you enjoyed uncovering these hidden truths about Hazzard County, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss when we expose the shocking secrets behind your other favorite classic TV shows. Because trust me, every show you loved has skeletons in its closet, and we're just getting started digging them up. The General Lee may have jumped over every obstacle in its path, but the real obstacles were happening behind the scenes. And now, you know the truth. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the most interesting stories aren't the ones that made it to your TV screen. They're the ones that were deliberately kept off it.